The courtroom was packed, the tension so heavy you could almost feel the air crackling. Cameras flashed, whispers spread, and every eye was glued to Remy Ma, once a hip-hop queen, now standing on trial in one of the most shocking cases of her life. But what no one expected was Papoose, the man who had stood by her through years of music, betrayal rumors, and personal struggles, suddenly stepping up to the stand. His words didn't defend her. Instead, they cut deeper than any knife. "I have to tell the truth," he said, his voice shaking. And with that, the courtroom erupted. Gasps filled the room, Remy's eyes widened with disbelief. And the world outside waited to see if this testimony would end her freedom forever. Was this the final betrayal? Or was Papoose just doing what he thought was right? The courthouse was surrounded by flashing lights, camera crews, and reporters yelling out questions that no one dared answer. For weeks, the headlines had been dominated by one story: Remy Ma on trial for her alleged connection to her son's tragic death. It was a case that sent shockwaves through the hip-hop world, pulling fans, critics, and the entire entertainment industry into a storm of speculation. How could one of rap's most respected female MCs, a woman who had already served prison time and fought to rebuild her legacy, now be caught in a case this dark? As the heavy wooden doors opened that morning, Remy walked in wearing a sharp black suit, her face calm but her eyes swollen as if she hadn't slept in days. Beside her stood her legal team, whispering strategy, while in the gallery sat both supporters and skeptics. The sound of heels clicking across the marble floors echoed, like a drumbeat of fate. This wasn't just another courtroom trial, it was a spectacle. Fans were live-streaming updates, gossip blogs were spreading rumors, and social media exploded with hashtags like #Justice for Remy and #PAPOOSE speaks. For every supporter praying she would be cleared, there was another calling for justice, demanding answers about what really happened behind closed doors. And then there was Papoose, her husband, her rock, the man who had stood outside prison walls for years waiting for her release, holding their family together. For nearly 2 decades, he had been the image of loyalty in hip-hop, defending Remy against critics, raising their children, and presenting a united front. But as whispers circulated that he had been subpoenaed to testify, fans began asking, would his loyalty finally break? Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was tense. The judge called for order. The jury sat stiffly in their seats, and Remy's eyes flickered toward the witness stand. Every movement, every breath felt magnified. The prosecution began laying out its narrative, painting Remy not as a grieving mother, but as someone whose lifestyle, choices, and inner circle had contributed to tragedy. They spoke of late-night arguments, financial disputes, and dark family secrets. The defense countered, reminding the jury of Remy's career, her struggles, her resilience, and her character as a mother who would do anything to protect her children. They framed the case as a media circus, a witch hunt fueled by her fame. But as compelling as both sides were, everyone knew one thing: this trial's turning point would not come from lawyers. It would come from Papoose. When his name was called, a wave of murmurs swept through the room. Remy shifted in her chair, her jaw tightening. Papoose walked slowly to the stand, dressed simply in a dark suit. He didn't look at her as he passed. He kept his eyes forward, his hands folded, his face unreadable. For years, he had been the man who fought for her, but today, he was here under oath. Reporters furiously scribbled notes. Cameras outside waited for leaks, and fans watching online typed frantically, "Is Papoose really going to testify against her?" The prosecutor cleared his throat. "State your name for the record." "Shamil Mackey," he replied, his voice steady. The courtroom knew him better as Papoose. The tension was unbearable. Some people in the gallery leaned forward, desperate not to miss a word. Remy's eyes filled with a mixture of fear and disbelief. This wasn't just about guilt or innocence anymore, it was about betrayal, loyalty, and love being tested in front of the world. Asterisk. The silence in the courtroom was suffocating. Every pair of eyes locked on Papoose as he sat on the witness stand. For years, he had been the symbol of unwavering loyalty, the husband who waited through prison time, who raised children alone, who defended Remy Ma in every interview. But now, under oath, the world was about to see whether love would triumph or break apart. The prosecutor leaned forward. "Mr. Mackey, can you tell the court about the night in question?" Papoose took a deep breath. His hands were clasped so tightly that his knuckles turned white. For a long moment, he didn't speak. The judge urged him to answer, and finally, in a voice low but clear, he said, "I was there. I saw what happened." The gallery gasped. Reporters nearly fell over each other, rushing to write down the words. Remy's eyes widened, her lips parting, as if she couldn't believe what she had just heard. This was the moment everyone feared, the moment loyalty collided with truth. The prosecutor pressed him. Mr. Mackey, did Remy have any involvement in the events that led to your son's death? Remy shook her head violently, whispering, No, don't do this. Papoose swallowed hard. His voice broke slightly, but he didn't look away. I don't believe she wanted it to happen, but the choices, the arguments, the people she surrounded herself with, it all spiraled out of control. And yes, she was there when it happened. The courtroom exploded. Gasps, shouts, and cries filled the air. The judge banged his gavel, demanding silence. The jury stared, stunned. For the first time, Remy's composure shattered. Tears streamed down her face as she shook her head, mouthing words that no sound could carry. Social media went into overdrive. Within minutes, hashtags like #PAPOOSE testifies and #Remy on trial were trending worldwide. Fans were divided, some saying Papoose betrayed her, others saying he was brave for speaking the truth. Blogs and podcasts lit up with debates, and YouTube was flooded with live commentary dissecting every word he spoke. The defense attorney jumped up, pacing before the witness. Mr. Mackey, you love your wife, don't you? Yes, Papoose said firmly. You've defended her for years. You've stood by her through everything. Why would you suddenly choose to testify against her now? For the first time since taking the stand, Papoose turned his gaze toward Remy. His eyes were filled with pain, with conflict, with love battling duty. Because my son deserves the truth, no matter how much it hurts. Those words landed like a hammer. Remy broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. The jury shifted uncomfortably, some clearly moved, others stone-faced. The judge called for recess, but the damage was already done, as Papoose stepped down from the stand. He didn't approach Remy, he didn't even glance back. He walked straight out of the courtroom, his figure swallowed by flashing cameras and reporters shouting questions. Inside, Remy collapsed against her lawyer, whispering, "He was supposed to protect me." That day changed everything. The prosecution's case, once shaky, now had credibility. The defense scrambled to recover, trying to paint Papoose's testimony as emotional and conflicted rather than factual. But the headlines told a different story. Papoose turns on Remy Ma in courtroom, bombshell. Tears, testimony, and betrayal. Hip-hop power couple in crisis. And the fans. They were torn apart. Some vowed never to forgive Papoose, claiming he broke the ultimate code of loyalty. Others argued that he had no choice, that justice for his son outweighed loyalty to his wife. For Remy, it was the ultimate nightmare. The man who once swore he'd never leave her had just spoken words that could put her away forever. But the trial wasn't over. Rumors swirled that more shocking evidence was coming, that hidden recordings and messages might emerge. And with every day that passed, the question grew louder. Would Remy walk free, or would her husband's words seal her fate? The courtroom may have gone silent after Papoose's shocking testimony, but the echoes of his words are shaking the entire hip-hop world. Did he just destroy the woman he once promised to stand by forever, or did he finally choose truth over loyalty? For Remy Ma, this is more than a trial. It's the fight for her freedom, her family, and her legacy. And for Papoose, it's the heartbreaking decision that could change how fans see him forever. But the biggest question still remains. What comes next? Will new evidence clear Remy's name, or will Papoose's testimony be the final nail in the coffin? The answers are coming, and they'll shock you even more than today's drama. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, so you won't miss the next twist in this explosive trial.